Welcome, everybody, to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us. We're going to set a really warm, grounded tone today as we dive into our material. We're focusing on this deeply transformative concept from the Neuro-alignment Method called Doorway 1, learning to observe. It's literally the foundational first step to reclaiming your agency in how you work, how you relate to people, and really how you lead. So, let me ask you a question. Have you ever arrived home after driving and realized you barely remember the drive, right? It's this completely universal experience we usually call highway hypnosis. But think about it. Your brain was totally active. You were making complex, split-second decisions. You're stopping at lights, you're adjusting your speed, you're keeping yourself safe in traffic, but a huge chunk of what happened occurred entirely without your conscious awareness. Your brain kind of just took over the wheel. And honestly, this perfectly illustrates the core truth we're exploring today. Human beings live way, way more of life on autopilot than we realize. Because just like driving that exact same familiar route every day, we develop mental loops. We develop these specific ways of speaking to ourselves, ways of reacting to, say, a really abrupt email, and ways of protecting our ego. And we rehearse these patterns day after day, year after year, until eventually, they don't even feel like choices anymore. They just feel like, well, who we are. That brings us to the first part of our explainer, the invisible architecture. You see, before you ever consciously chose your habits, you were basically trained into them. You didn't start adulthood as a blank page. Actually, you started with a draft already well in progress. To put this blueprint into perspective, consider this absolutely staggering number, 148,000. Estimates suggest that the average person hears the word no, or, close cousins like stop, don't, or shouldn't, more than 148,000 times before even reaching adulthood. I mean, wow. That's dozens of corrective or limiting messages every single day right while your core identity is forming. So it is no wonder our nervous systems are trained to live on autopilot. We literally learned these patterns just to survive and fit in. And this repetitive programming, it literally builds the invisible rooms we live in. As a result, we develop this deep fear of rejection, right? So we end up shrinking back in important meetings. Or we start using control as a way to feel safe in uncertain environments. Maybe you end up micromanaging your team because trusting them just feels way too risky. We also start equating our relentless performance with our actual worth as human beings. And we learn that silence equals peace, which means avoiding necessary conflict at all costs. This whole invisible architecture just becomes your default operating system. It's driving your behavior at work and in your relationships, totally behind the scenes. Now, living on autopilot, driven by all those old inherited scripts, it is exhausting. It completely drains your leadership capacity and leaves you feeling like you're perpetually behind. But listen, right now, I want to fully release you from the pressure of having to somehow fix these ingrained patterns today. We aren't doing that. We are simply contrasting the heavy exhaustion of living on autopilot with the empowering, really light clarity of building awareness. You don't have to fight the autopilot. You just have to notice it. Which leads us right to the heart of our practice today. Doorway 1, observation. Here's the thing. In the Neuro-alignment Method, we don't just jump into some massive, overwhelming 10-step self-improvement plan. No, we start right here with this big idea. You cannot intentionally shape what you have never learned to observe. If you don't know what script is running in the background of your mind, you have absolutely zero power to change it. Awareness is the absolute, non-negotiable prerequisite for any meaningful change in our self-leadership. I mean, think about it. You have to turn the lights on before you can remodel the house, right? So, the entire purpose of Doorway 1 is simply to shift from autopilot into awareness. And I really want you to notice what we aren't doing here. We are not changing. We are not fixing. We are simply noticing. There is absolutely no judgment or criticism allowed in this space. Like I said, I want to completely relieve you of the burden of performance today. This process, it's just about gentle, honest observation. Okay, so what exactly are we observing? Well, we're keeping an eye out for the autopilot villain. These are those predictable, fast-acting patterns that hijack your agency using very familiar scripts and loops. It's that automatic storyline that just jumps right into the driver's seat when you get, say, a vague email from your boss, or when you are just utterly exhausted at the end of the day. It uses familiar words and it offers quick relief. Maybe it makes you lash out, or, maybe it makes you completely shut down. But ultimately, it keeps you stuck. So our job is just to start catching that villain in the act. Let's shift gears now to the actionable part of our explainer. Here is your daily practice. I am giving you a singular, incredibly low-friction assignment for today. Step 1. Notice one repeated thought today. Step 2, do absolutely nothing else, literally nothing more. Just catch one single sentence you repeat to yourself. Maybe it's, ugh, I'm so behind, or I really have to prove myself in this meeting. Whatever it is, just notice it. Write it down if that helps you kind of externalize it. But remember, and this is absolutely crucial, you must do this with zero pressure to change the thought. We are tracking to learn, not judging to shame. Taking this tiny step is actually a massive victory. Why? Because awareness is the beginning of every meaningful change. Simply turning the lights on, catching that script mid-flight, that is a profound win for your nervous system. You are stepping out of the default mode long enough to realize that, hey, you actually have a choice. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to really spark your curiosity. You are not your wiring, you are the architect. Yes, you inherited a blueprint for sure, but you do not have to keep building your life with someone else's measurements. The exact moment you start observing, well, the architect wakes up. So what will you notice today? Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one.